So let's say, Captain, I am a grain of wheat and I get loaded into a barge in Minnesota near the Twin Cities, and I'm going to come down the river to New Orleans. Talk us through how that happens. There's probably three 200-foot barges lashed together. You're locked in there right behind them, and if I'm not mistaken, it's not one tug that takes it all the way down the river, right? There's a different setup going through the locks, northern half, southern half. Talk us through that if you could.
Yes, there definitely can be multiple tugs that would do that. So right now, the way the river system is, it has changed over the years. We used to be able to take 12 loads, even 15 out of the Twin Cities. Now that doesn't happen. The river system just isn't, particularly above Lock 3, it's just not in good enough shape. The the size of it doesn't support coming out with 12 loads. So they would do 6 loads, 3 wide and 2 long, and maybe stack some empties on top of that if they needed some empties shifted south. Those barges would be put together by a fleet tug up in St. Paul. The harbor is right there, downtown St. Paul. And those barges would be shifted down and starting, through the lock system all the way down to St. Louis. As we're moving down the river, you may stop at Red Wing. That's a place that we stop a lot to pick up a few more barges. And at Red Wing, you're far enough down the river where you don't have those restrictions. You can go ahead and start doing what we call it filling out. So you start picking up barges at different ports all the way down till you get to St. Louis. And by the time, well before you get to St. Louis, typically you have a 15 barge tow. So you're 5 long, 3 wide, you're talking 1,800 tons per barge on average, and, 1,000 feet long with the boat. You're an easy 1,150 feet long.
Huh. That's an aircraft
Yep.
carrier right there.
And then once we get to St. Louis, 2 of those tows will be combined. So they'll combine 2 of those tows. Tugs will help with that again. Marquette does that a little differently. Sometimes they will bypass the St. Louis Harbor, go just below St. Louis Harbor, and they'll let 2 of their boats coming off the upper combine 30 barges together. And then one of our lower boats, like the boat I work on, will turn those boats. So when we get turn orders, we will have an empty tow coming northbound. Sometimes we have loads within that tow. Certain commodities go northbound, for salt is a good example. Almost all the salt that's spread all over the Midwest is brought up by barges out of Louisiana. So those two 30 barge tows will be combined together. We will swap tows where the lower boat will give the upper boat our tow, and then we'll take that lower tow, 30 barges combined, and we'll continue south. And then we may, just depending on the river conditions, we could possibly fill out to as many as 42 on this boat. Doesn't happen very often, but a lot of times we'll fill out to 35 or 36. The 36 typically were 6 wide by 6 long. And then we continue all the way down. And from the time you clear St. Louis, there's no locks. So there's really not a whole lot southbound other than incidents and, things that would stop the whole river system. There's not a whole lot of things that would slow you down. It's about a 3-day trip from St. Louis down to New Orleans.
You must have an immense amount of horsepower.
I was
on that
thinking the
tug.
same thing.
In order to just push the thing, much less make it turn. It's incredible.
Typically with a 35 to 35, 36 barge tow, you're going to have 7,200 and up in horsepower. The boat I'm on has 6,600, but it is a sea drive boat. So it's one of the newer technologies out. It has a lot of steering capability. So it has pods underneath it, and some of our shipping industry uses the same technology, where you'll have a bow thruster that comes down out of the front of the ship, and that bow thruster can turn 360 degrees. It doesn't have a forward and reverse. It doesn't, the propeller doesn't turn direction. It spins forward all the time, and the whole pod turns to adjust thrust.
Shaft
So
spin.
we have 3 of those on the back of this vessel. We had 3 2,200 horsepower pods, and that's what we use for propulsion.